Hello, fellow traders, and welcome to another class of our Advanced Dashboard Masterclass series. Today is all about charting in the platform. We're going to look at two different ways to chart on the platform. We're going to look at how to do your setups on there, and then we're going to look at different ways you can customize those charts. All right. So we're going to get started over here. We're going to do these setups first on the platform, show you how you can build various layouts on them. And then we're going to go right into the customization piece on the charts itself and different ways you can use the drawing tools and to set up some of those indicators there. So let's get right into it. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to create a new additional workspace here. Now, if you wanted to build the workspace from scratch and add in the tools that you wanted, this is the way you're going to do it. So we can choose a layout of our from the choices that are presented to us. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the desktop layout, and we're just going to call this our chart dashboard. Okay. And now, once you've labeled it and added it in, we're just going to click Add Layout. You've got a blank canvas to work with here. So what we're going to do from here is add, of course, our trading tools. One of them is going to be charts. But before that, I also want to add my watch list because there's a number of stocks that I track, and I want to be able to pull those up on the charts readily. So first off, what I'm going to do is head over to our categories here and find our watch list, which I believe will be under the trading category. Let's click on that, and that gets added in there. You can load up any watch list that you have. In this case, we just have, again, keeping with the same theme, we're going to use our auto manufacturers. Now, once we do that, I'm just going to position it off screen over here and kind of divvy up the page in sort of this two-column view. Now I'm going to head over back to the trading category and let's go and throw in the chart widget. So again, it's going to just overlay just like you would on a desktop where you're able to arrange some of those icons in. In the same manner, we're going to be able to arrange the space in this desktop layout the way we want it to. And I'm just going to just drag it and off. We're going to have to drag it off using the column on the right. So let's size it up about halfway through and put that in. So really what we're covering here first off is we just want to be able to show you the different ways you can do the layouts or the different pieces of information that you can add to see in the layouts. So we're going to throw this in, and just for good measure, the one other thing that I will also do is maybe we want to just keep a track of some of the markets that we're trading. So we can also add in the markets widget here. So let's go into the trade, and we're going to go into the news and markets, and we'll throw in the markets over here. We'll slim this down and add this just below our, actually, I'm going to just add it as a separate tab. I'm just going to put it on here within the watch list so I can switch between the markets view and my watch list. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is just the setup. I'm going to sync both of them up together so that way when I do want to look at any symbol, it's going to automatically load up. And again, we're going to head over to our channel configuration bar up here, and we're going to choose any color that's available to us. And we're going to use this as the information that's going to be sent over from this tool. So let's just go ahead with channel 2 as a sending option. And the same thing, I'm going to go on the markets, open up that channel configuration, send from there. Head on over to the charts now on that same channel configuration bar. We're going to click on it, and we're going to choose to receive the information from those other two tools. So now what I have is if I pull back my watch list over here, I can simply just click on any of the respective symbols that I have. So let's say we want to look up Tesla. If I just click on Tesla, we will be able to see Tesla load up in the charts as you see it coming up on the screen here. Now, this is one way in which you can do customization in various degrees. Now, keep in mind, of course, you might be challenged for real estate when you're doing it this way. If you're having both in view, you can obviously rearrange the sizing of it just to give more spacing to the chart. But keep in mind that all of the trading widgets that we have on Advanced Dashboard, they do have that maximize feature that's located up here. So if I wanted to go full screen with the charts, I can simply do that while still keeping my watch list within that workspace. And I can just minimize the view again when I just want to peruse through my watch list there. Another way you can also do the setup is if you don't want to do the customization and want to get at least a baseboard to start off with, you can head on over to our layout manager that's located up here in this top right corner. And within this layout library section, you're going to find a number of predefined workspaces that are given to you. Now, the one we're going to head over to is the one that's charts. You can actually click on the magnifying glass to first preview what's built in as part of that layout for us. So you can see there's a watch list over to the left over here, and then we have the charts in the center of the page and some other embedded charts as well. We'll be able to see once we get it added in. Once you're happy with that, all we simply do is head on over to where it says charts, and at the bottom, we're going to scroll down and it'll say add layout. We're going to click on add layout. It gets automatically populated in. We're just going to close out of this layout library, and you'll notice there's a new workspace that's been automatically created as part of that says charts. And if I come in here, let's load up this watch list again that we had on our auto manufacturers. We can see it's kind of similar to what we had built. So we do have the watch list here on the left. We do have charts, but what this layout has also given us is it's a sub-tab of 3 different charts so that we can move through these various pieces of charts if we wanted to do so. So this is one of the ways as well you can do the setup. I'm going to show a third way that's also possible for us to do over here. So let's go ahead and add in a workspace. Now, granted, most of us traders like to have a couple of different charts open at the same time in our workspace. So we're going to use our flex sheet as our view. And within the flex sheet, what we can do here is it gives us a choice of different grids or the spaces that we want to create. So let's say, for example, we wanted to create a 4-view space. So we'll use this. You can go up to 6. You can go as many as you want, and you can really customize that space. So we're going to call this Charts 2.0. All right, so let's go ahead and actually I'm going to call it Charts Grid for what it is. So let's go ahead and click on Add Layout. Now again, we've got these separate windows and spaces on their own. So we've got the little addition icon that's going to populate the tools for us. So let's go ahead and add charts essentially 4 times in each grid. So we go in here, add chart, and we'll do it 2 more times over here. Okay, and there we go. We've got 4 charts embedded now within this view for us. And then of course, the next part of it is going to be setting up those charts for the view that you want to get ready for trading. Now keep in mind these windows are all going to be detachable for us as well. So you do have the ability to detach individual ones, or again, blow an individual chart up while you're in that grid view, and then also minimize it back to that original view there. All right, from here, we are now going to get into the customization of the charts, adding studies and getting those drawings on our charts as well. All right, so let's go ahead and start our customization of the chart. First, we want to get a lay of the land on the chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in full screen over here, and we are going to bring up the entire chart in its full view. So let's make that in full view. So we first need to just get a lay of the land and what we have in terms of a functionality on the chart. So let's take us across to the top bar, and then we'll go into some of the settings that you have accessible to you. So first off, you're going to have the symbol box loaded right up over here. And let's just say we want to look at the SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF that tracks the S&P 500 index, of course. So once we get that loaded up, it's simply putting in the symbol and turning it on, or you can even have it again linked like we did previously to a watch list to load it up there. Once you do that, you'll have across the menu, first thing is to select your different time frames that you have available. So if you click on this, the minute icon there, it gives you a menu card of different time frames you can choose from. This is going to be your aggregation that you'll be able to set up here. And it breaks it down between the second section, the minutes, hours, and then of course the daily. So let's just say on this particular chart, maybe we want to look at a daily chart over here. So when you look at the daily chart, it'll have a custom period that's already set up as part of this, and it'll already be pre-built for you. Now at the bottom as well, you do also have your period selection over here. Now if you do go in here, if you want to look at the total time frame that we're looking, we've got going from the longest time frame, 5 years, 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, etc., going down the list there. Let's say we want to look at a 1-year time frame over here, and it'll readjust to show us that 1-year time frame, of course, as a quick menu, and you can see the charting within that space. Now the other thing you can do is you can also just really customize the time just based on how much you're looking at the chart, or zooming in or zooming out. So you'll notice that if I kind of hover towards the bottom, there's a zoom in and zoom out feature. There's also a hotkey function. That's the zoom out, zoom in. And then the hotkey is just using the control and the up arrow to be able to go in and out of that chart. So for example, if I click on the plus, it just expands that chart, zooms in for us. If we hit the minus, of course, it's going to be using the zoom out. Now using the hotkey as well, I can do the same keys. I'm using control and the down arrow, and control and the up arrow is taking me in. So this is a quick shortcut menu just using your keyboard if you wanted to maneuver through the chart. You also have the left and right arrows, so you can swipe this way, or you can, again, it also has the hotkey function. So simply clicking using the right arrow will allow you to move through the chart, and the left, etc., as well will allow you to go through the chart. So in this way, you can either zoom in or zoom out. You can look at a larger time frame, as you see, using your mouse. If you do have one, or trackpad, you can zoom out and look at a larger time frame, still keeping that. So this is another way you can sort of customize or set up the time frames on the charts apart from the stock ones that are provided to you. Now, along with this, we also have, before we go into some of these indicators and the tools that we have, we're going to look at some of the settings that you have. So in terms of choosing the chart style, so that's going to be located right next to our aggregation selector, and this gives us access to our chart style. Now, there's a host of ones you can choose from. Commonly, the most popular one would be the candlestick charting that's defaulted there, but there are some other ones available to you, and there are some more of the exotic ones as well that you're going to be finding within the Heikin Ashi, the Renko, and the point and break, point and figure one as well there. So quick access, just choosing those, and you're also able to do the customization on them. So let's say, for example, we are currently looking at the candlestick chart. Let's zoom in a bit on this. If I wanted to change the aesthetics of the way it looks, well, I can do that by going to the settings. So that's going to be located in this right corner, the gear icon. If I hover over it, it says the chart properties. We can click on that. And this is, and there's a number of different sections within the chart settings over here. But first and foremost, it gives you the aesthetics choice for the candlestick charts. You can also choose to turn on certain features of the candlestick that you want. So you can either say, turn on, keep the body on, or well, maybe I don't need the wicks as part of this candlestick chart. So I can uncheck that if it's not required there. So I can do that. And then you can choose the different colors. So if you click on the actual grid of the color, it gives you a color palette, and you can choose amongst them, or you can even just go into the color selector menu, be able to choose whichever one you want there. So you have these customization pieces on the aesthetics of it. There are some other labels that we can also add onto the chart. For example, if we wanted to add the bid and ask lines showing up there, we can put those in if need be. And then also the pricing. So for traders, maybe you're trading, let's say, penny stocks, and those decimal points do count when at each tick that moves. You can come in here where it says precision and choose how many decimal points get displayed on there. So for example, if we go to 1000, you'll notice on my price axis, we've got 3 decimal places, and then etc. The more you add in, the more you're going to be able to see. So you can configure those according to the way you trade or what you trade there specifically. So we're going to keep it on the default. The other thing we can do is if we head on over to the status line, what this allows us to see is it adds various labels on there for us. So for example, we've got our symbol box loaded up, and if you see, if I'm unchecking and checking that off, you'll notice that over here in this top left corner, it says the Spider S&P 500. That's what the symbol is, and if I uncheck it, it removes it there for me. So depending on what you want to see, or if it's too distracting or getting in the way of the charts, then you can turn some of these things off. You can also control what gets displayed. Maybe we don't need to see the full name, maybe we just need to see the ticker alone. That's good enough. Or if you want to see both the ticker and the display name, you can choose that. You should say we leave it on the ticker for this setting. You also have your open, high, low, close values. So on each candle, as you move through the chart, as you can see, as we move through the chart, those values get presented to us in that legend bar at the top. So we can choose to have those either turned on or turned off there as well. And then once we add indicators, we'll be able to see those indicators also show up, and we'll go into that one at that point when we start adding those in. The other thing you can also do on the charts that you want to get set up ahead of time is the scaling on this. So again, this is going to be a lot of those labels that we can add in. So for example, I just added in the bid and ask labels, and that those are flashing on the price axis bar now directly on the chart if I need that. Now keep in mind, we do have those also showing up in this top left corner because we do have the orders turned on, and we'll show you how you can turn those off if need be. But you can turn this on and off. We can add the high and low pricing as well. That's going to mark within that time frame the high and low price. Maybe we'll turn off the bid and ask in this case here. And then anything else that needs to be turned on or off will be found within here, and you'll be able to see it in real time as you make the changes, what those would look like on the charts itself there. Right. Finally is the appearance. So this is the settings where you can access to change the appearance of really the background that you're using. You can see we're on a dark theme, so we have a dark background, so we can adjust the background if we wanted to, let's say, make it a white background. Well, look at that. In real time, we're able to see it flash to a white background. I can revert back to the original black that we were on, a darker one. You can also control a lot of the coloration of that background, the thickness of some of the lines and the grid lines that we have. So within here, essentially, you can come in and choose a lot of these settings here for yourself. Right. Once you've done this, this is going to pretty much automatically save. There's nothing extra that needs to be done. It will capture all of these settings, and you do have a complete save menu that you'll be able to save along with some other things with studies and indicators alike that we'll show in a bit there. The final thing that we wanted to just point out for traders is that when you are following a chart or a stock, that you do want to keep some room off to the right, if that's where your chart is, just to see kind of where the trend of the pricing is heading or where the candle is being developed. And if you wanted more room, you can create this you can come down to this right margin and change the number of bars that get displayed. Right now, we currently are seeing, we have a daily chart set up, so it's showing 10 candles bars, which are equivalent to a day. But I can say, I don't need 10, for example. Maybe I just need 5, and I can hit 5, and it's going to realign my chart to just show me five candle bars to show up there. So you can adjust it to your liking to see however much that you wanted. And if we go off to 15, it's going to give us a bit more room to play with there. Once you've done all of that, just simply hit OK, and that is going to save those settings there for you. Now, in terms of the labeling here, you can also control how things get displayed over here. So you can simply just right-click on the menu, and you have the ability to turn certain things on and off. So within here, you can see that we have, you can choose to hide open orders if they show up on the chart, or actually display earnings, for example. So if you wanted to show any earnings or show dividends, for example, I can just click on that as a selection, and it will label those dividends when they do get paid. So any of these settings with the right-clicking menu will also come up and allow you to see those. You can also choose to turn off certain lines that we have. Right now we have the price line that's showing up here. So you can see on the SPY, there's a little price marker over here, and there's a line that goes across the chart that's demarking that. If we do this for the high and low, it's just adding those extra lines in there as well. If we just wanted to kind of box in the high and low within our chart to make sure we see that. And of course, I can turn on the bid and ask. Now, I don't have the label on there, but we can also choose to turn on the bid and ask once we do add that into our charts there. All right, we're just going to turn that off for the time being and come back over here without display. Now, if you come over to the header over here, you can control what gets displayed on here. So for example, if we don't want to see the symbol, as I mentioned earlier, if it's too much space, you can turn that off and then access some of the other settings. Maybe we don't need the buy and sell button right within here. I can turn this off and also create some more real estate to see my title cards a little bit better. So right-clicking on this menu at the top where the pricing legend is, that's going to give you access to these settings to change what gets displayed there. All right. So for those settings, we looked at the properties there. We looked at the legend settings as well. There is another settings bar that's located off to the bottom here, which is going to give you a quick access menu rather than having to go through some of the more in-depth ones there. And so if you want to get the quick access, there's a few things you can change over here. First things, you can invert the scale if you wanted to do so, depending on how you trade. You can choose what type of chart that's being displayed. The regular chart, are we doing it on percentage based one? So if we switch it to percentage, it's going to mark the percentage based on the opening move of where we open the chart here. Do we want a log chart? Usually useful for longer term pricing moves. Most traders do like looking at the log chart there. So we'll just revert it back to the original regular one. And then we can also choose to see where this pricing scale is. Right now it's off to the right. If I click it off to the left, it moves over to the left, of course, if that's more comfortable for you. And again, note that the quick setting icons are going to be located there. So if we move it back to the right, we'll open up our menu one more time. Apart from that, you still have your label menu that we were just looking at and those lines that we were looking in the settings. So this is something that is accessible here. Now, one of the last things we've shown on here is a plus button. So what does this plus button mean? And you'll notice as I hover along the chart, it's referring to this little button right over here where my mouse is pointed at. This is a price level at which you can enter trades at if you want on the chart. So for example, let's just say we want to set up a trade kind of at this level. If I click on it, it gives me an option either to buy based on my default quantity that I have set up on the account at that price level, or to sell, or in this case, it would short. And so let's just say we hit the buy, it's going to open up our order entry ticket and have that price already queued in to send that order through. All right. So that is an option that you can choose to have, and it'll only activate provided you click on this plus to be able to do that. Now, since we are talking about trading, keep in mind that you do have the ability to also trade when you have those buttons at the top over here as well directly on the chart, and we'll display that in just a moment once we do set up some other information there. Okay, so we've covered a bit of the settings. We've covered some of the aesthetics on the chart. Let's look at getting into building out the chart a bit more, adding some comparisons, adding some indicators on there. So first off, let's just say I want to run some comparisons. So we can click on the compare section over here, and we can really pair it or compare it against any symbol that we wanted to. So let's just say we want to compare it against the Dow Jones, the Diamonds DIA ETF, which tracks the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And we can select that, for example. And maybe we also want to run it against another of the major indexes, the broader indexes, which is the Russell, and click select IWM and select that one. So now what you'll notice is it's creating these graphical lines on there, and the chart does change its scale as a percentage, and it is now showing us, really as a relative performance based on when it started, how they've stacked up to each other and which one might be lagging there. So this is a way to do the comparisons. Now you're also going to see those comparisons kind of off to the side over here on the legend showing up. Now I haven't had the labels turned on over here, but I can choose to just right click and add symbol, and now we know exactly which is which. If you ever get confused which one is which, you can look here and it'll tell you the red is the diamonds, and of course the blue is going to be IWM for tracking the Russell, the RUT. Now to get rid of it is also going to be fairly straightforward. You can either click on the comparison and simply hit the delete key on your keyboard, and off that goes. Or you can come up to the label up here, and there's a little X that allows you to remove it, and we can remove that from there as well. Right? So easy way to add it in and remove it there. It usually keeps a log of the history of the ones you looked at, so it's easy to pull up the next time around. So let's just keep the diamonds for our demonstration here today. So we're going to put that in and set that up there and leave it in the chart. Now, the other thing that we will do is the important part, which is the studies. If you're a technician, then you may want to add some studies into the chart. So that's going to be housed over here under the indicators section. So you can bring up the indicators. Again, anytime you hover over the menu, it's going to give you a function of what it is, and also if there's a hotkey, how do you activate it? And you can see in this case, it's that / or I guess in this case, yeah, there we go. It's the / on your keyboard. So if I click on that / like I just did, it will open up the study menu for me. So from here, you have alphabetically organized studies that are going to be available. There is a whole slew of them that you can add to your charting. And we'll just use some basic ones. Let's say we add in the moving average convergence divergence, so the MACD for short, and we select that and simply click it to get it added in. And we'll go ahead and add RSI, relative strength index, that gets added in. And we'll add some of our moving averages as well in the chart. So let's just say we want to do our simple moving average. Okay, there we go. And here's a moving average. You can simply type in what you're looking for. It's going to give you a smart search function of the ones that are going to be available to you. And then we can go ahead and add those in. So we're going to just add in moving average here, and maybe we'll see if there's one for exponential. Moving average exponential. There we go. All right. So now we've added some basic indicators, simply pointing and clicking to get those set up in. How do we then go ahead and configure some of the inputs on what goes in there as well as the aesthetics? Well, they're going to show up on the legend at the top for ones that are inlaid within the chart. So ones that are overlaid, for example, such as our moving averages, which are part of the main chart, and then our lower studies. So the ones to do the ones that are overlaid into the chart, if you come over to the legend box and hover over the description, there is a gear icon beside it. You can actually click on that gear icon and it's going to open up the input menu as well as the aesthetics of that study. So you can come into the inputs and say, for example, maybe I want to make this moving average. Let's just call it a 200 moving average, all right? We can choose what source it's going to be based on pricing wise. That gives us, we have a choice on that or control off that. And what type of smoothing it is using one of the three types of moving averages that we have: simple, moving average, exponential, or our weighted. And then once we've added that in, we do have the style menu choice, so we can change the color if it doesn't suit us. So we can come in here, since we have clashing colors, and we'll just label this like a bit of a yellow color, and we can choose the way it looks there, along with the thickness. So let's just say I want to make this pop a little bit more. I can choose that thickness to have that come out a bit more there. And then simply just hitting OK, and you can see now we have our 200 simple moving average along the charts there. Now we also have this one over here, the EMA. So I can actually double click, we can just click on this to activate it, to have it pop out, to just help tell us. So by simply, if you're not sure which one this is, if you got a whole bunch of these studies, you can click on the one, just land on the one, and it'll kind of highlight and tell you, okay, this is the EMA that we're looking at. So if we bring up the gear icon again here, again, we can adjust the settings on this. And let's say I want to make this a 50 50 bar exponential moving average. And then if I go to my style, just want to differentiate that color apart from the rest of them, I can come and choose from the color palette whichever color that I'd like. So let's go ahead and do this a little bit of a turquoise, and we'll match the width of the band there a bit and make it a bit thicker. All right, and there we go. So we've got that part of it done. Now within this menu, you also have this eyeball icon, and that's the one that allows you to hide certain things. So you don't need to necessarily delete it. If it's getting too busy and you just want to see the chart, you can just choose to hide certain ones there, and they're still displayed here, so you can see we've kind of cleaned it up. I can choose to hide the comparison as well. Let's hide that off there, and now we're just looking at a chart. So everything's still there for us, it's just hidden away, so we can choose to unhide what we want. So that's another big sort of key feature for the platform, is you can put some certain things away or tuck them away when you don't need them. So now that we've got these settings, if you open up the menu that's across from it there, it gives you some other options over here as well. The main one that I want to point or get everyone's attention to is the moving feature, because you can actually separate these studies out from the main chart if you really wanted to. So you can see, for example, it tells me I have a choice between going up to the pane above, the pane below, or staying exactly where it is, the existing pane below, in terms of overlaying it into the MACD. So let's see what the new pane above does. So once we do this, you can see that the EMA is separated out from the main chart to allow me to maybe get a better sense of the trend on how it's trading. If I go back and open up that menu, I can say, let's move it back into the main chart. If we do it one more time and open up the menu and say, okay, let's open into the existing pane below. Let's see what that does. All right. So what that does is, in fact, is you can now integrate it within that lower study as well. So if you wanted to set up or do any sort of additional studies on the indicators or oscillators that you have, you can also do that and drop them in there in that manner. Okay, so we're going to put it back in its original spot, and existing pane above, and there we go. It's back and slotted in where it should be. So keep in mind, none of these are going to have these settings, so do check those out whenever you do access them to change those inputs and aesthetics. Now, when it comes to the lower studies, the ones that we set up at the bottom, for example, You are going to have, first of all, hovering over the legend card or the title card of it. It tells you the inputs already as part of this MACD. It's using the defaults, the 12 and 26 EMA with a 9 smoothing on the signal line. So you can come in here into the gear icon again. We're on the style menu. We can change the colors. We can also choose what gets displayed. Some traders don't like looking at those MACD and signal lines, so they can simply turn those off. And maybe they just want to look at histograms on there to get a sense of what's happening. And you can keep the inputs, or we can change them if we need be. So let's go ahead and OK. And maybe I just like the histograms, and this is what I'm going to keep on there. The other thing you can also do is across, similar to what we did above, is we can choose to move it above in a pane above and choose to have the charts in the middle, kind of have them sandwiched in between, or you can choose to move it, rearrange the order and have the MACD at the bottom versus kind of in the middle there. All right, so these settings are going to be pretty standard across the board. So again, you can access them and really change the inputs. It really gives the trader the control to be able to set up the time frames, the inputs that they want, as well as the colors that are going to help them, that are going to stand out to them. So we've done this indicator layout. Let's do our final thing over here. And what I'm going to do for the time being is I'm just going to make this chart portion bigger. And I went up to this corner, which allows me to expand this pane of it. And by the way, you can do this for any of the studies as well. So let's say I want to see the MACD in full view. There's the MACD in full view without any of the charts. So you do have the ability to expand these individually as well. Final thing we're going to do is the drawing tools. So let's make this set bigger. Let's add our drawing tools. So the drawing tools are going to be housed on this bar over here. Now you do have the ability to kind of hide away or tuck away this bar if it becomes too intrusive. So at the bottom, there's a little hide function. You can just hide it to see the charts in full view, and you can also expand it to bring it back up. So what you have here first at the top, we'll just highlight some of the key ones in here, is the cursor selector. Right now, my personal preference is to use the crosshairs, but if you rather use a dot or you use an arrow, for example, you could do that. We'll see how the dot looks. Kind of point and shoot there with the dot. So whichever is your preference, you can choose that as your cursor. The next one down is with the drawing tools, where you can start doing mock-ups on the chart in various ways. So the two ones that I will mention are going to be the trend line first and foremost. So you can draw a trend line, simply select it, drop your first pin or your point, and then kind of start drawing from there and seeing where it takes you. So we can just connect it. Remember, trend lines have to connect to at least a minimum of 3 points on the chart with 3 candles to consider it as a valid trend line. And the more the points it connects, the stronger that trend line is that you've drawn. Now, we've just drawn it for our demonstration here. And then once you do that, it does give you a panel control that will open up. So again, we have the ability to choose different colors. Again, choose the weighting on that line if we wanted to, and see whether it needs to be dashed or dotted, or just a solid line itself. So we can really customize these parts of the feature that we wanted to. We can go into the settings again. It's going to give us the same sort of attributes as well. We do have the ability to either say, let's extend it or extend it to the left or right, or both maybe. So we can choose that. And we can also add labels on the stats on the trend line, which is neat. So let's just say I want to see the price range from the start to the end. And also maybe I want to do the date and time range, right? And then you can choose where the stats position gets labeled at. Is it on the right, the left, whichever place you say. So let's just go into the left, and we'll show that because it's coming up in view. We'll come down, and now you can see this box that gets displayed of the stats on this trend line there for us. All right. So this is a basic trend line. Again, we can keep that in view. And again, if you want to get it deleted, well, you just simply click the delete, or if you're clicking off of it where the menu is gone, just activate that trend line again and hit the delete function like we just did. So we got the trend line. We got the next box down is going to bring us our key levels that we can chart for. So commonly traders will use the Fibonacci retracements. So again, this has a hotkey, Alt and F. So clicking the Alt key and the F signal will activate the Fibonacci's, and you can see I can go ahead and drop my first point and take it up to as high as I need to. And we've got our Fibonacci's drawn in here. Now, similar to the other study, you have the settings menu. Again, a lot of it has to do with the aesthetics of it, but you can also turn things on and off at various levels. That's going to be pretty much the theme with any of these drawings or lower indicators that you're putting on the chart there. All right, so without going in a lengthy spiel, you can continue with the rest of the studies and try those out on your own and simply add them in and give it a go, and you're able to delete anything that you have on there once you test it out and then finalize what you have. Once you have kind of finalized what you want on the chart, what we're going to do is finally is being able to save some of these settings. Can we save them with the drawings that we have? And you certainly can. So the first thing we're going to do is save them with the study set. So if I'm going to minimize back to our original chart, you can see that we have the RSI and the MACD in this order and orientation with these settings. So I can come up to where it says templates over here, and I can say save the indicator template. So let's see what that does. If we click on that, what it does is ask me to label it here, and I'm going to say study set 1, for example. And it gives me two options. Do I want it to remember the specific symbol that I've done some of these mockups for? So in this case, we're looking at SPY. It doesn't have to be. We could keep this as a generic study set that's going to be broadly applicable to all different securities that we look at. And also, do I want it to remember the time interval or the time frame that I've set up on it? So in that case, maybe I do like the time interval, so I will select that one in here. And along with that, it'll tell you what gets saved as part of this indicator template. Well, the volume, the comparison that we're gone, DIA, the moving averages we've set up, and the RSI and MACD, and I can hit save. Now, once you hit save, you can actually recall this saved study set anytime you want. So let's say we move into a different symbol, and I'm going into let's go into the NASDAQ triple Qs. We'll load that up, for example. And let's say I want to see a different study set that I have. So you can see we've got these different ones we've created in the past. Let's say I go to study set 2. Well, this is what study set 2 looks like. And come back in here, and I can go to study set 3. This is what study 3 sets up. And finally, the one we just saved, study set 1, we can come in here and it'll configure it based on that, along with those same moving averages and lines that we did. Okay. The only thing that this doesn't include is going to be those drawings that we did. All right. So if we go back to the SPY that we were just on, so let's load up the SPY, and you can see that we do have those Fibonacci drawings still in place that we did keep. What you can do is another way to save it is coming out to where it says chart layout. If we come in here and we hit save, what this is going to do, and maybe we can just label this SPY 1D for a one-day chart, and hit save. So once I do that, and I can come into my chart layout, I can recall this along with all the study sets in case I do switch symbols. So if I say load chart layout, you can see there's a number of these different ones that we've built out over the time. So let's say we recall the Tesla one. I can click on Tesla, and you can see the specific way that I had built it out, what studies I had. I can come back in here, and I can go to any other ones that we've done in the past over here. We can load up the Apple one. Again, this is a different aesthetic, different color, has some studies. This one doesn't have any. It has some of the labeling. So in this way, you're able to specifically save the symbol along with the drawings, along with indicators, along with all of the settings that you've applied with the timeframes when you're using the chart layout menu there. All right. And that, folks, is a look at the charts, customization of those charts. So really set up these charts the way you would like to do so. Keep in mind, once you do the initial groundwork to build those out, if you need to go back to your chart grid, let's go back to this it's a matter of easily and simply just loading it up with those time frames. Let's go to the SPY over here, for example, and we've got the SPY configured and loaded up here, and then we can remove some of those labels to see them much more better in the charts that we have in the grid layout, if that's what you're working with. So in this way, do test out different ways you can add indicators, test out the colors to see what works best for you, and then create a final workspace for yourself that you're going to be using as part of your trading. So thank you for joining me here in our charting session here on Advanced Dashboard. Please be sure to check out the rest of the videos as part of our Advanced Dashboard Masterclass series.